Wow, we are moving right along here. We're already into chapter 3. Before you know it, the term's going to be over. I hope you've enjoyed your study so far, and now you should have a better understanding of interdisciplinary and what that means and the value of it. And we've also taken a moment to look at the history and how better understanding history helps us to better understand who we are today and all those elements that come together to make us who we are today. And in this next chapter, we're going to be looking a little bit more at the definition of interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and what is that, more emphasis on what that really means and what that means when we deconstruct it and take it apart. So the purpose of interdisciplinary studies is to help us to develop your capacity to integrate knowledge, modes, sorry, can't read my own writing, thinking, and educational experience. So it helps us to understand better, first of all, if we're taking interdisciplinary studies, what are the problems that we should be looking at through those eyes, with those lenses? What are the best problems to really kind of take apart those things? What is the problem? Sometimes we don't have a clear understanding of what the actual problem is. So what are we actually studying, and then helping us to define and clearly center that. Even when you do research papers, sometimes you're like, well, this is crazy, I can't do it because the problem is too big. So it helps us to kind of really focus on what is the thing I want to study. Is it appropriate for me to take this thing that I want to study and look at it from different scopes? And what will those different scopes lead me to? What answers will be different, and how would those different answers help me? So that's really important. So to deconstruct the problem is really to reveal the different parts and pieces that are involved in it. So what are the different elements, the different pieces that come together to understand that problem better? So if we were going to look at a situation like drug use. Now let's look at something like medicine. Let's look at the spread of certain diseases. We would want to understand the medical field. We'd want to understand earth sciences, where certain areas have more disease. We have Zika in certain communities. Why do we have Zika in certain communities? We need to not only understand the medical perspective of Zika, but we have to understand mosquitoes and how they spread. And we have to understand people and where they're at. What if those people don't have access to things like bug spray and clothing or mosquito nets? And what is the influence of that? What is the influence of the Zika on their children? What is the influence on having the money or the economics to pay for the care that they need to prevent those things? If you don't have money for bug spray, you probably don't have money for adequate medical care. What is the role of things like the World Health Organization in trying to help certain nations? Is there problems within those nations that the World Health Organization doesn't feel safe in getting in there and working with them? I'm not saying that this is just an example, but whenever we look at a situation, that's what we want to look at. What do I want to study? Zika. What about Zika? What the disease is, or how it's spreading? And where is it going? And then deconstructing it. What parts are involved in that? We know mosquitoes spread it. That's a really short paper. Probably not going to get you in it. Okay? We want to go a little deeper. How is it happening? Why is it happening? Why did it occur? How long has it been around? Has Zika always been around? Has it not been around? Is it spreading more because we have more standing water in global warming? Is it spreading more because we have more people in areas that weren't inhabited before? What is happening? That's interdisciplinary, and that's what we're going to be looking at more. So we have to look at the problem in a larger context, not taking it apart to that little piece, but really broaden it to get what we really need and an understanding of what it is. It helps us to gather information and helps us to better evaluate that information. It also allows us to look at the viewpoints of different experts and not look at those different viewpoints of different experts as conflicting, but all part of a bigger piece. So if I want to research Zika, I could find articles and they may have different things to say. And interdisciplinary lets us say they might all be right, or parts of what they have might all have elements of the truth, that there's not just one part, but more parts to gain a really good understanding of what's happening. So in that process, we're going to be looking at things that we have to examine ourselves. We need to look at our own assumptions. We have to look at our own biases. our own values, and our own disciplinary training. If I'm doing research, but I'm very biased in my research and I ignore other elements because they don't say what I want to hear, then we're not being good interdisciplinarians. Whether we agree with the results or not, we have to be dedicated to our research and truly looking to gather all that information, all the different aspects, and seeing the different influences in there. So that's really important for us to be good researchers, for us to be good critical thinkers, for us to be good at finding new solutions. We have to be willing to set our assumptions and set our biases and set those things aside. Not that we shouldn't have values, of course we should. But we need to be able to see things not just through our own tunnel vision of how we do things, but what's really out there to gain the understanding we have to. So that's a personal challenge as well. And we have to understand that through this process, we're looking to create a common ground and find a way to benefit the society or whatever we're studying by looking at those multiple different viewpoints. So we don't want to be so biased that we think that only my way is the right way. I'm not sure any of you have ever done that, but it's possible that when we have this thinking that my way is the only way, then we are shutting down the opportunity to learn other opportunities and other things that can help us to grow and help us to find better solutions to problems. And so it also helps us to gain a better understanding of the complex problems and all of the elements that are part of it. Another term you heard me talk about was multidisciplinary. And the book gives you a definition basically as saying it's placing side-by-side insights from two or more disciplines, but with not attempting to integrate them. So the difference between multidisciplinary, which is where I'm going to take these two insights and I'm going to study the perspective from both ways, but I'm not seeing how they work together, is the example I gave you in the very first clip when we talk about a fruit bowl. So I'm studying a fruit bowl, and a fruit bowl has apples and oranges in it. So I'm going to tell you that this fruit bowl has apples and oranges and bananas. But you can clearly see each one of them in the perspective of each. So they're kind of laid out separately. In interdisciplinary is when we're going to have the smoothie. We're going to mix them all together to the point where we've created a new thing. It's not a fruit bowl anymore, although it has the elements of all those fruits. We now have a smoothie. And we can't easily take those parts away and to say, well, this is a little piece of apple, and this is a little piece of orange, and this is a little piece of banana. We have a new thing, which is a smoothie, which is a combination of everything. And quite frankly, maybe a little tastier because we get the elements, what each of us give it. We get the A and the C and the B and the D and all the good stuff, as opposed to just pieces and parts. Again, we all like apples, oranges, and bananas, but I'm a big fan of smoothies. How about you? So that's really, really important. So we want to understand that. And the other term that we're going to learn in this chapter is transdisciplinary. And that involves the academic researchers from unrelated disciplines, as well as non-academic participants, such as area managers and the general public, to create a new knowledge and theory and delve into common questions. So what does that mean? It basically says we've got multidisciplinaries, many people studying the same thing, interdisciplinaries, people studying it from different perspectives to come up with new solutions, and transdisciplinary, which is allowing us to make those connections, but takes it even a step further and says it's not just researchers that we need to involve. We need to involve the people that are there and that are experiencing these things in our studies. So if we're studying something like Zika, we need to study the people and say, why do you not have bug spray? Why do you not have protection? And find out what the problem is. The problem may be that they don't have road access to get it. It may be that the stores don't purchase it, that it blows up because it's too hot and they need different containers. I don't know what that particular thing is, but it allows us to work with the people that are there on the ground that are responsible for creating those solutions. And so that it's not just done, again, from the bubble of a researcher someplace else, but interacting with those people who are very, very motivated to find solutions to their own common problems. So we don't want research and we don't want things to be done to them. We want it to be done with them. So we've got some really cool stuff to study this chapter. I hope you enjoy it a lot, and I look forward to seeing you in chapter 4.